Assistance Partnership of Oregon. CAPE hosting this webinar in partnership with the National Community Action Partnership and with support by the Region 10 Training Collaborative and PIC grant. Welcome our presenter this morning, Courtney Kohler, who is a Senior Associate for the National Community Action Partnership. Courtney works under the Organizational Standards Center of Excellence and the Learning Communities Resource Center, and she provides training and webinars as well as developing toolkits and resources. She's a NELI certified Roma trainer, a certified community action professional, and a family development credentialed instructor. At the end of the webinar, we ask that you take a few minutes to fill out a short survey, as your feedback is very helpful to us when we're planning future webinars. Go ahead and hand over the controls to Courtney, and I hope you all enjoy the presentation.
Thank you, Peggy. Appreciate it. We're going to be talking about consumer input and involvement and kind of going beyond the organizational standards, but we're going to discuss a little bit about what those requirements are. I'm talking a little bit about customer service as well as the community reputation, talking about consumer involvement and sharing a few examples, and then consumer input as well as satisfaction. So requirements and kind of our overall management and accountability cycle guide some of this, these ideas in this work, but it's also very central to the work of community action. And so whenever we look at why is this important, of course, we have the requirements, we want to be compliant, but also want to look at why is it important otherwise? Why do we care just beyond the compliance piece of it? And some of these things is because that, it really directly affects the ability of customers to access and use services. And so we want to make sure we have this input, we have this involvement to really be able to have good access and people utilizing services in the best way possible. Also important to the continuous improvement services or cycles. So looking at Roma cycle and how can we improve our services, how can we improve how we deliver services and programs, and looking at this consumer input involvement is very important as well. Also is a very key component to the needs assessment and the strategic planning process, and so those are two ways that we can involve customers as well. The customer focus also empowers individuals and the families that agencies serve, and it's of course required by certain organizational standards, which we'll touch on just briefly. Standards, of course, category 1 very much focuses on this, considering the category is called consumer input and involvement. So looking at the organization demonstrating low-income individuals' participation in activities. I'm going to hit on that a little bit today. The organization analyzes information collected directly from low-income individuals as part of the community needs assessment process. Also, the fact organization should have this systematic approach for collecting, analyzing, and reporting customer satisfaction data specifically to the board. In the engagement category, we look at the fact that the organization should be documenting the number of volunteers and hours that are mobilized in support of activities. And whenever we get into standards around strategic planning, we look at the idea that this customer satisfaction data and consumer input should be collected as a part of the community assessment and then included therefore in the planning process. It's really central to a lot of the activities that we do in the organization, but there's do it and best practices around it, and so that's what I hope to share with you all today. Standards of excellence for community action, and so they're kind of the non-compliant pieces. They're not required, but for agencies who are looking to really enhance what they're doing around customer satisfaction and consumer input involvement is a category focused on the customer, and it looks at how your agency really seeks to understand the voices of customers, constituents, and the stakeholders in the community. So if you're interested in more information on this and kind of where those high standards for community agency around the customer focus, these are the examples of the standards of excellence that are included. Of course, much more information is in the standards of excellence. And so those can be found on our website, Pathways to Excellence, or by myself or John Proctor. And talked about these different kind of requirements, but maximum feasible participation has been very central to community action since the very beginning. And so in the foundation of community action, the approach really emphasizes the priorities and the maximum feasible participation of the constituents. So this is kind of a requirement that individuals from the communities that are being served are represented in the decision-making body of the agency. In several different ways. We see it through involvement with tripartite board, which we're going to talk about, as well as volunteerism and general involvement in the activities through community needs assessment and things like that. So before we go into those specific things, though, we will talk a little bit about what is kind of our customer service culture and what is that community reputation we're really going for. Because really building that foundation around these pieces is where it begins. So first, I want to kind of get clear on our language. What do we call the people that we serve? And so it really helps to shape organizational culture, attitudes, and actions. And so for purposes of today, there's lots of different words you can use, but the word customer is one we're going to be focusing on today. And kind of the reason lies because it implies kind of an obligation to listen to feedback and avoid the stigma of their labels, such as clients or participants or whatever you might call people who are coming into your agency to access services. But customer has a little bit more of that positive connotation with it as we look at those that we serve. Another important question after we get clear on this language, which I would encourage you to do at your agencies, is to ask, what is the customer value? So those of you who have gone through Roma training, this is one of those key questions. And Peter Drucker is the one who really posed this question, focused on it with nonprofit organizations. Because sometimes we look at the customers and what they value and looking at products and services and things like that more in the corporate world with businesses. And so that same idea, though, should be shifted into nonprofits, especially community action agencies. And so look at what satisfies the wants, needs, and aspirations. Look at really be answered by the customer themselves. It is a very complicated, especially with what we're dealing with poverty. Poverty is complicated, and so really understanding what their needs, wants, and aspirations are is not going to be something that we can just determine on our own. A good quote in looking at what the customer values. Many organizations are very clear about the value that they would like to deliver, but they often do not understand the value of what they deliver from the customer's point of view. And really focusing on kind of a customer-centric attitude in the agency rather than the agency-centric, because we are experts in this area. We know what we're striving for and reducing poverty. We really do have to look to the customer to answer some of these bigger questions that are about them. Who are our customers? Who are we including in this group of people that we are going to include and involve and input and feedback from? So these individuals and families that our agency serves, this is also our partners, so our service providers, advocacy organizations, that sort of thing. We're also looking at our funders because they are a type of customer for us as well. Community, so the community at large, because there might be individuals and families that are accessing certain individual services, but the community might be benefiting from different community services and programs and initiatives that your organization is doing. So therefore, the whole community ends up being part of the customer base. And one that sometimes is forgotten is that staff are customers as well. Those are really those internal customers, and a lot of times if your staff aren't happy and if you're not focusing on staff as customers, it's going to be even harder to be able to provide excellent and good quality customer service externally to the external customers as well. So keys to customer service as we're thinking about we deliver this internally and externally. 4 main things from the research that we did around customer service really rise to the top. So attitude is one of them, and this includes your feelings towards customers as well as overall outlook. So what that might mean is how staff about the customers that come into the agency. Are they feeling like a negative kind of viewpoint of them or more of a positive? What is the outlook about what we're trying to do with customers and how we value them? Engagement. So this is looking at leveraging current client motivations as well as ensuring comfort for them to return. Then we work. So this is looking internally as well as kind of across the community, but we want to work together to best meet the customer needs and also share resources so that it's most efficient and streamlined for the customers to access they are needing. So creating a habit and a culture for customer service. So making this just a really central part to the internal operations of the organization. This is both internal and external. So as you're working with the different departments and operational pieces within your organization, as well as working with different community partners who are doing the work and serving similar customers. So keys to customer service. This is how they all end up relating. So that attitude is really looking at the introspective. That's something that staff and people within the agency really have to look inside themselves and really think about what their attitude is around the customer. Engagement is looking more at external, so how you engage with others within the agency as well as the community and the community perception. And work is more of that internal piece within the organization. How do we work together to be able to meet the customer needs? All that is not possible without communication. So being able to kind of almost communicate with yourself, being able to communicate externally with the community, and then able to communicate well internally with the staff and the team at the agency. So to kind of ground us in what we're talking about is that really it comes down to the fact that the customer's perception is reality. So one might think this is how we're doing things, this is what we're trying to do or intending to come across. Ultimately, it's all about the customer's perception. So how you can kind of get into the mindset of the customer to get a sense of what their perception is. That's going to be the most realistic point of view that you can operate in. So we talked about customer service a little bit. Now looking a little bit at customer satisfaction. You can deliver all the customer service you think you are doing as best as you think you can, but if we're looking at the customer's perception, it's all of how satisfied they really are and how they're perceiving that interaction. So look back at highly personal assessment, strongly affected by customer expectations, is really kind of what customer satisfaction is. It's that personal assessment they're doing based on what their expectations are. It's by contact with a service provider as well as personal outcomes. So it's about relationship as well as what the customer is able to achieve as a result of that relationship. Is it based on confirmation or disconfirmation of customer expectations? That's kind of where you're getting to whether customer is satisfied or not. So expectations play a big role in customer satisfaction. Also, to ability of customers to hold the organization accountable, the accountability piece in the relationship with the customers and the agency is very important. And there typically kind of boils down to 3 different customer needs: security, esteem, and justice. Looking at those as three things that customers are expecting, desiring, and needing in their interactions with the organization is something to really consider as you're working towards customer satisfaction. So customer satisfaction, these kind of go along with the different ways they're looking at with customers. So it's the experience of the customer or interaction, so again, relationship piece that I mentioned. Then satisfaction with the service that's been provided. And also the satisfaction with the outcome that they feel that they may or may not have achieved. There's three different elements that kind of guide what level of customer satisfaction someone might be feeling. There's also various service quality factors. So these are things that are going to go into how satisfied the customer really is as they interact with the agency. So timeliness and convenience, obviously, you know, are getting done times they said they were going to get done, coming back to the expectation piece. Also, convenient is it for the customer access services or interacting with people at the organization. The amount of personal attention someone gets, also very important. Reliability and dependability of agency. The employee competence and professionalism is also important. And then, of course, empathy, responsiveness, assurance, and ability. And then also, you know, there's tangibles that go into it as well. So looking at what are the physical facilities like? Are they welcoming? They, you know, decent for people to come into, clean, kind of equipment is available, does it work, that sort of thing, and appearance of personnel. And this is something that can kind of be, I think, with the population that community action serves. Want to be professional, and there's also the flip side of being comfortable enough and kind of being dressed in a way that is inviting to someone. And so I'll just think about that balance between professionalism and comfort with how someone might perceive you is important. And of course, you know, by dress code first and foremost. So there are different general operating principles that you kind of look at whenever you're looking to enhance customer service and customer satisfaction. The first one here, looking at the idea that successful customer service companies to understand and respond in very unique and creative ways to the evolving needs. I think that's the key word there, that those needs are always evolving, and expectations are always constantly shifting. And so kind of the challenge for organizations, but being attuned to that and understanding that community action really is unique and creative, and so we almost have kind of that edge to be able to respond in unique and creative ways these evolving needs happen. That customer or these companies establish a clear vision of what superior service is. So having your organization kind of decide upon what does it look like, how do we communicate that vision to employees with the organization at every level first, so that then it's reflected outward as well. We ensure that service quality is personally and positively important to every single person within the organization. It's really looking at establishing concrete standards of service and regularly measuring themselves against those standards. So the organization doing that. You might be able to actually use these standards of excellence kind of as those standards of service quality, and maybe pulling some things out there really set those ideals for your agency. Number 4, looking at organizations, you know, as to carefully hire people, train them so that they have knowledge and skills to achieve service standards, and then empower them to work on behalf of customers inside or outside of the organization. Then looking at how the organization recognizes and rewards service accomplishments, whether it's individually, as a group effort, or in celebrating successes of employees who really go above and beyond the expectations of serving customers. And so really looking at how you operate around customer service, what are those things you put in place as standards to be able to deliver the best quality customer service, so that customer satisfaction is just something that comes intuitively for your agency. There's 5 different components of these customer-focused organizations. So we'll go through these quickly just as kind of a grounding of where we want to be as we focus on the customer. First, vision and mission statements. So making sure that these really focus and guide employee actions, as well as the core values of the organization. That we set and manage customer expectations. So looking at our performance management system in there, to contribute to instilling a culture of customer orientation and providing employees with the necessary information to be able to carry this out through processes. So examples of what this might look like. These are the mission statements around the customer focus. For example, Marriott says that every guest leaves satisfied. So it's simple to the point, but then they work that into their performance management system and processes so that they can carry that out in their day work. Folks in Kansas City says the best place to get care, the best place to give care. So are we on our customers through our vision and mission statement in our customer-oriented organizational culture. So looking at how oriented are we around that customer focus. Sometimes this entails a pretty big cultural shift away from that convenient mindset of what is needed by the service user. What's easy for the agency to do. And so it requires multiple methods and strategies. It looks as though you have to collect feedback from surveys and other instruments, employee feedback, and really taking that into account, incentives and reinforcement for keeping this culture going, and really working structures, processes, and accountability around this to keep the culture going. It's one thing to try to implement 1 or 2 things. Really, it's about the maintenance long term. Lastly, that orientation around how do we conduct our needs assessments as well as our strategic planning in our organization to really include that maximum feasible participation of customers. About attention to the total customer experience. So, we can do this, look at doing a customer walkthrough exercise to see how does that customer really experience it. What is that perception as they go through the process of accessing programs and services. Here to stress personal contact and relationships. Customers want that personalized service because we know that in community action that it's not a standardized approach for every single person. And then the importance of remembering names and personal details can really add that personal contact and touch. Attention to detail, so personal notes and databases, making sure case notes, those who are working with clients are, informational enough to pass on information and remember different details over time. So emphasizing comfort and experience, so thinking about spatial things, the physical facilities like I mentioned previously. Organizing procedures around customers, so thinking about how things are convenient, streamlined, timely, and prepared. I think this is, we think about the customer we're serving, but we also think about everyone. And I think that in general, most people appreciate things that are convenient, that are efficient. We do our time wasted. Thinking about how you would even want it as a customer is important. Customer flow, assistance with forms and referrals, how timely are those things, and all of calls and reminders to help people understand that they are being attentive to. Look at customer service standards and accountability, so looking at behavioral change that requires standards, not suggestions. Customer service standards around the ideas that the customer is first, that responsibility has been accepted, be able to reach out and help, initiate contact, nurture others, give attention to detail. So those kind of examples of different customer service standards that can be set within the agency. I already touched on this a little bit, but focus on the frontline staff. And so, we think about, well, we're talking about the customer focus, but like I said previously, staff are your customers first and foremost. So treat employees well, will absolutely return out. Organizations, this is done, provide good training and support, create flexibility and empowerment for staff, really recognize and reward for jobs well done. Emphasizing customer satisfaction in the hiring process is something that can be done to, really if people are a good fit, to be able to provide quality customer service, as well as let them know as they're coming in that this is a high priority for the agency. You incorporate customer satisfaction in orientation and training to really instill the organizational culture of customer satisfaction. For customer satisfaction, so really favoring the customer or the organization, all that customer perception, involving employees in planning and improvement, especially those who are often with the customers on a day-to-day basis. We're going to have a lot of that information about how customers are perceiving things. So being able to involve them in planning is going to be key to having those appropriate service delivery strategies, recognizing and rewarding that performance of excellent customer service. So now talk a little bit about involving customers and looking at best practices around how we can involve customers in unique and creative ways. So tripartite board is one of those that's unique to community action. And there's that 1/3 of the board is low-income representation. So a lot of great resources around tripartite structure as well as the low-income sector. And so I'm going to go through just a little bit of information, but there's more on their website for those of you who are interested in this particular piece. So for the low-income sector, must be democratically selected to be able to ensure representation of low-income people in the service area. If people are choosing to represent a particular neighborhood, then they must live there to truly represent that area. CAAs is a little bit different. They have to be representative of low-income individuals, still the same as nonprofit private CAAs, live in the service area, and they must be able to participate actively in the development, planning, and implementation of CFBG programs. So looking at those that you're recruiting for the low-income sector, you want to represent current low-income residents, but they need to be low-income themselves, always. However, recommendation is that you have some, if not all, low-income board members who are low-income themselves. So you can't people low-income sector just represent the low-income community. Of course, you're much richer information and ideas around perception and things like that from those who have actually experienced it themselves. But with democratic selection procedure, it's a little bit different for the low-income community. And so we want to look at kind of this micro-democratic selection procedure. And you have some options with this. So you're thinking about kind of outsourcing. Look at this. There's an election, but if the groups are made up of predominantly low-income individuals, your requirement for the low-income rep on the board. And you want to make sure that you're looking at different areas such as faith-based communities, the Policy Council, the PTA, the Health Center Board, things like that, to be able to look through, who might be appropriate for the low-income sector. Also, board members should not be chosen by the typical board election process. You should have a board nominating committee, and the executive director of the CA or other service provider should not be the one choosing the low-income sector board members. So these are the ways not to do it. You want to make you do have a democratic selection process, but it just looks differently. So with this, there's actually a good resource on the CAPLA website. I've included the link here in the slide. Received this PDF of the slide deck after the webinar. But the democratic selection procedures, case studies, a lot of good information in here about really raising the low-income voice and this low-income sector of the board. Different standards around, you're looking at, like for nonprofit CAs as well as the public, the organization's governing body has a written procedure that documents the democratic selection process of low-income board members to ensure they're representative of the low-income community. So the recommendation around this is really to look at, unless required by the state law for CCG, you don't need to put written procedures for democratic selection process in bylaws, but create a separate document to be referred to the bylaws and then approved by the board. As far as the low-income sector of the board, of course, there's resources out there. There's one, of course, to involve customers in agency leadership, because the governing board really guides the direction of the agency. And being able to include those in a governing body is a really great way for that maximum feasible participation. So another of involving customers is looking at volunteerism. So this is all about people helping people. Different ways to involve through volunteerism. So one is specific to programs. So you might be looking at with Head Start, having people come in and read to kids, helping seniors programs, and going through a couple different examples of how you can make sure you're not just using volunteers in the community, but that you're really using volunteers that are your customers and really get involved in agency activities. Then a way to involve it is through practicums or internships for special projects. Really thinking through the customers you have and what are their strengths. So what do they have that they might be able to offer to agencies? Are they looking to get involved? Do they want to have some more social connection and kind of build up their social network? This is a really great way to do this and building up skills. And so being able to offer some different practicums or special projects for participants can be very good. Also, cleanup. So gather together groups of people who want to help with things like that. There's different, I have one of the examples includes that as well. And going back to the roles specific to programs, there's a Florida program I didn't include a specific example about. I'll tell you about it. It's more around looking at maybe senior programs. And whenever you're, a lot of times seniors and retirees fall them to online scams and phone scams. And so there was a Florida program that had the seniors all gathered together and created a man scam list. And they created this list, they distributed it to other community senior centers, and really built some community awareness around safety. One of those, program participants decided to do that and led the effort, really getting together those people and taking charge of it. So it ended up being really an empowering activity. Then the thing to do, you can include that in a lot of different programs, but you're able to think through how you might, if there's, especially if you have programs that are fairly long-term, and if you're looking at kind of case management and self-sufficiency type programs, you might be able to pair up long-time program participants, or at least offer the mentorship kind of program piece of it with those who are brand new to the program, so that people can kind of help show each other, what resources to access, give them, support or having a tough time. That's one way to kind of get the customers involved in, leading through that program experience. Of course, meals and events. People love food, and people, generally love getting together. And so that's another way to involve customers in the agency. Also, kind of take some of these things that are even listed and make them a path for hiring customers long term down the road. And so if you're able to look at, mentoring and how they've done in that, or maybe they participated in some special projects or community cleanup effort with some other volunteers, then that's something that you can kind of see and eventually hire them to then work in the agency as well. And they kind of have that perception and that perspective, actually, of what a customer would feel because they were one. Examples. And then the first one I want to talk about is about customer relationship within programs. And so there's a 5-year senior program. Some people might have heard of this because I think there's other programs around the nation, not in community action agencies, but others. But basically at West Central Missouri Community Action Agency in Fulton City, Missouri, the community services program has at-risk youth to stay with, because that was determined as a community need. And the multifamily housing center operates senior living communities. There's 2 unit directors that came together and they really realized that the potential of pairing up youth with seniors to help learn how to use internet, mobile devices, social media, tablets, communicate better with their children and grandchildren. So they have implemented this program and utilized these at-risk youth learners as leaders in this senior program. So they've actually had a lot of success with this. It's in a very rural area in Missouri, and they've had 4 seniors graduating classes now, and they're offering the program in new locations. And so it's a great intentional way to meet multiple needs of the agency, as well as really empower 2 different target populations that the agency is serving, and kind of letting one develop leadership skills in the process. So really being able to dig deeper into the needs of the agency, see what current programs, customers, and volunteers can be utilized, or unique strategies to be able to address and leverage existing resources in the organization, and all kind of work together a lot of different good ways, not just involving customers, also just create efficiencies and streamlines, and even integrating services as well. Looking at volunteers, leading volunteers. This is something I mentioned a little bit before, but at Central Missouri Community Action, they have a neighborhood cleanup that happened, and the start of it was that there was a sidewalk between a low-income senior housing unit and then a library, which was kind of one of the main places for people to go to get resources, to get on the internet, and that area was very overgrown. It was not accessible for elderly and disabled without walking in the street. So it was a problem, especially, and I think it was by a busy street as well. So kind of what happened was there was one low-income customer of the senior housing community that was interested in helping somehow, but they didn't know where to get started. So the agency kind of helped pair them up with a volunteer at a local university that they've used before, then really helped encourage and empower this customer to go ahead and lead the cleanup project. And so they borrowed tools from the city, so they were able to get resources that way. And that volunteer ended up, or the customer kind of helped really lead out that project to clean half-mile area so that sidewalk was accessible again and people could get to the library. So example of a customer kind of stepping up and leading some sort of project like that and getting involved in the agency. I'm thinking, how do we get our people to do that? And sometimes people don't want to do that, and that's fine. You might be identifying people in your agency really might have interest in doing things like that, or might have strengths in areas. And I think one great way to be able to teach leadership skills to customers in the agency is offering different life skills classes. And this is an example of one. Of course, other great ones out there. Up to leadership is a kind of life skills program or course set up over several weeks. There's various topics in there, and it's very specific to community action. So it presents specific topics that a novice board member needs to know, and it also provides a learning environment where participants can develop awareness and understanding about nature, about human nature and relationships. So it really has become a very resource in helping people to, in agencies, customers, to find their voice, find their place, and develop some leadership skills for moving forward. So that you'll actually receive the curriculum around this. There's both participant books, about $20 a piece, and I'm not selling them. So that's, it's available through the University of Missouri Extension. But resource if it's something that you're interested in exploring, or even just looking at the topics or topics to include in your current classes that you're offering. Okay, customer input. So where are those spaces where we can really gather good input from customers? I go through a few different ways. There's actually quite a bit more on this topic within our hour time frame. I don't have time to go into a lot of them, so I have some additional resources on you for you to access. Why do we need consumer input? Of course, I already talked a little bit at the beginning about maximum feasible participation. We have the organizational standards. It's rooted in community action. It's also part of our that we have to meet. But there are other reasons why you just want to do this, because it's a good practice. You're able to understand how your organization is perceived, and that helps you get a better understanding about what the community really needs. Helps you prioritize tasks. I know, at least in my time in community action, I've heard it several times. We want all things to all people. I think sometimes we really try to do that because we care, but we have to prioritize. So listening to the customer is one way to do that. Generate new and renewed excitement, interest in programs, so that people who haven't accessed service before will do so if they see that excitement in the community. Information ready for future use. So being able to gather consumer input and feedback on a regular basis helps us just have a bank of it, so that when we're doing grant proposals or answering questions for the press or our community needs assessment, that we already have some of this information. We also use community awareness of who the connection agency is, what the community action agency does, and overall just to improve your program, improve your agency. These points come from the community toolbox, which is another resource I'll share in the appendix. The idea of win. So there's two types of feedback. There's informal and formal. Formal feedback, you want to collect that on an ongoing, continuous basis. Formal feedback, you might have more specific times. So when we look at the piece, that's part of the planning process when you start an initiative or anytime you start a new program. Then you want to look at the certain program, you might want on a specific topic, you're going to look at feedback around that. And then periodically through the life of your initiative, you want to see how it's going, because you don't want to keep going, not aware of how it's going, and end up doing the wrong thing that's really not meeting people's needs. And then, of course, you always want to be sure that you're actually using the information that you obtain. So always thinking through questions that you ask. How to bring this information and say, are we going to use this? And how do we use it before we ask the customers for input. So looking at kind of the before and after pieces of the customer input. So on the beforehand, looking at how you gather input through your community assessment and how that is fuel strategic planning process. So really, that's where you're asking about what programs and services should we buy for families and communities based on the needs that are present. So different ways that you can get this input is through forums and town halls, focus groups, surveys, and interviews. Information on each of these, we have some different resources and slide decks on community assessment. And the Community Toolbox has a lot of in-depth information in how to conduct focus groups and how to gather good input through the methods. Then with customer satisfaction, we're really looking at, okay, so how did it go? And we improve. There's different ways to do it as well. Looking at comment cards, suggestion boxes, surveys through online or by mail, phone interviews, different complaint monitoring and resolution processes, and then also implementing an improvement committee within your organization. So about gaining this input, it really starts with asking the right questions. Asking what you want to know, who, so there's information out there on, might be in the community about how things are going. That might at least contribute to what you're trying to get to know. Who do you ask? So what's your target population to gather this input? How many people do we want to ask? What's your sample size? And then how do you want to ask people? So what is that method of gaining feedback? And there's actually a lot more information on these different topics in that community toolbox. So this is an example of a very simple and effective survey for a place to start looking at customer satisfaction. So this looks at the physical facilities aspect of customer satisfaction with the first two questions. Then you're looking at timeliness, where they were treated with respect, their needs were even met, and looking at kind of that idea of referrals and integrated services, were they informed about other programs or community services, and overall, would they recommend it? So that's kind of your idea that if yes, then well done. If no, that's just an example. We also have more examples on that in our customer service, customer satisfaction, some slide decks, which I've linked a couple here for you. So a couple of webinars that we did just recently for the Nationwide Community Action Network. This one on designing a customer satisfaction system goes a lot deeper into customer satisfaction and creating that system in your organization. So there's a link to watch that one. The second really around the collection and analysis of customer satisfaction data. And so I've linked you to that one. Actually, that link, though, we're still in the process of uploading that one. So it's a YouTube page, but it should be one of the first ones listed. Access it soon. And slides, I put a link to where they can be found in the near future on our National Standards page under Category 1. And there'll be some different key resources, including that community toolbox through KU that I showed. Lots of different resources on our website as well, tools and resources or programs and initiatives. How we're finding something, please let us know. All right, my contact information is on the screen. I'm going to do a double check for any questions. So if you have any as we conclude, please feel free to send them in via chat or the Q&A box. The only I'm seeing at this point is about slides. I've already sent those to Peggy at Community Action Partnership Oregon. So she will be sending those out to everyone who attended and registered for this webinar, so you can access the links and things like that. And of course, if you have any trouble with any links or please just feel free to email me as well. All right. Any other questions? So Peggy, did you want to say anything else? There's a survey. Make sure you all fill that out, and it'll take you directly to it when you close the webinar. You kind of close up, Peggy.
Great. Thank you so much, Courtney. We hope you all enjoyed the webinar and are able to take away some new knowledge and ideas that will work on your agencies. I want to thank Courtney for doing such a great job and the national partnership. And we'll be sending out a slide presentation and the link to the recording to all of you soon. But take a minute or two to complete our survey, and don't hesitate to let Courtney or if you have any further questions. Thanks, Courtney, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you all.